made possible by the absence of any smell. Because so many precautions are taken to keep putrefaction from escaping the vaults in the form of liquids or gases. This is the only cemetery in the city not permeated by the rancid, sweet, offensive stench of bodies slowly decomposing. Flowers never manage to cover that smell. It gets in your nose, and you feel like it will stay there forever. It's more insidious than excrement, than trash. Maybe because if you weren't aware of its macabre origin, you might think it was perfume. Only the flesh knows horror. Bones, once clean, might as well be fossils, pieces of wood, curiosities. It's flesh that has been keeping me up at night. I've been visiting the cemetery compulsively for the past few weeks. This time, I'm trying to conjure, by day and accompanied by my son, a disturbing memory. Santiago runs ahead of me and has no idea what I'm thinking. He's 5 years old. At first, he fell in love with this labyrinthian cemetery, this miniature city. But then he asked me to stop bringing him here. I told him that today was the last time. I promised to buy him a present if he came with me, and he agreed. Now he's chasing an imaginary skeleton he has named Juan. He searches among the tombs for the one with a skull and crossbones etched into its glass doors, believing a pirate is buried inside. He wants to play hide and seek and yelps with excitement. But I tell him firmly that he can't shout or run here, because he might crash into someone, because one should be respectful wherever people are buried. I don't know how, but he understands. He's young, but he can sense a difference in the air here, like in museums and churches. Whenever I take him to the Museo de Bellas Artes or the cathedral, I show him, by drawing a finger to my lips before we step inside, that some places are meant to be entered in silence, on tiptoe. We choose a different path from the groups of tourists following their guides at a crawl, and quickly lose ourselves in the far reaches of the cemetery. Santi is wearing red pants, the brightest thing in the whole place, and he's running again, amid all the marble and granite. Suddenly, he stops. He stands frozen before the tall statue of a woman who rests her sword on the ground in a gesture of defeat. He needs to tilt his head all the way back to see her fully. Then he snaps out of his trance and runs on. He reaches a tomb a bit farther down the alley and grabs the knocker hanging from the mouth of a bronze lion with both hands, trying to pull the door open. I tell him to stop. He obeys, even if he doesn't exactly know what I'm protecting him from, then runs off again to kneel beside a glass opening on the side of a mausoleum and point inside. I go over to look in with him. He peers into the darkness and asks me if the smallest coffins are for babies. Not always, I say. Sometimes, after people have been buried a long time, only their bones are left, and they can be put in a smaller casket. I don't want to tell him that sometimes bodies are put into ovens and reduced to ash. When he finally finds the tomb with the skull and crossbones, he sits on the front steps and asks me to take his picture. Sometimes I wonder if it's all right for him to have death flung at him like this, at such a young age. If I should try harder to hide it from him. On the other hand, we never invited death into our home, and yet, there it was. We walk through the cemetery, and I try to keep one eye on him as I allow my attention to linger on whatever jumps out at me. I pause at the tombs that have cracks in them, fissures. Everything I see is broken. Wrought iron French doors missing panes of glass, barely held shut by a hastily slung chain.